up, Ray? So who is the electric pressure cooker for? Hey guys, so today I am reviewing a very famous product. It is known by multiple names: the electric pressure cooker, an Instant Pot, an iPot, a multi-cooker. But essentially what it is a pressure cooker that is run by electricity. For those of you who have never used a pressure cooker before, so pressure cookers of the past were usually stovetop, right? So it was like this precarious metal object that built up pressure and would cook your food really fast, but it looked like it would blow up at any second. How a pressure cooker essentially works is when you heat up something inside a pot, and this pot needs to be sealed, so there's special mechanisms for that. Pressure builds up inside. This pressure serves as a force to kind of also break down your food faster than if there was no pressure. What pressure also does is that it raises the temperature of the boiling point of water. So it goes from 212 Fahrenheit up to right around 250 degrees. So that increase in temperature combined with the force from the pressure just breaks down your food a whole lot quicker. So you end up being able to cook beans in like 30 minutes as opposed to let's say 2 hours, which by the way is crazy pants. Essentially what they did with the electric pressure cooker is they've turned it into a very safe looking object. It looks exactly like a rice cooker. And there's usually presets for something like beans, for rice, for soups, for poultry, for fish, for vegetables. And it just all looks, it just all looks super kind of safe. Everything is rounded, doesn't look like it's going to explode. And a lot of people don't discuss price, but price is just so important when you're buying a gadget. This one that I have with me right now retails at right around, I think, $50 or $60. For those of you looking for recipes as well, I'm actually going to be doing a couple of holiday recipes and some autumnal recipes with this coming up. So that is all going to be here. So the famous Instant Pot, I think, retails at right around $100. You can find a lot of these, they're called multi-cookers, I think, a lot of them, or electric pressure cookers. You can find a lot on the market for right around $60. I've seen some for $70, for $80. It is still an investment, but if you look at, maybe a rice cooker of this size or a slow cooker of this size, rice cookers can run you between $20 to $30 at the very low range. And of course, hundreds of dollars if you're talking about, some of the really cool Japanese rice makers. And then a slow cooker, yeah, right around maybe $30, $40 for a size like this. So if you are considering buying a rice cooker or a slow cooker, for me, just the price alone, I think that a multi-cooker might be something that you would be interested in looking in, because again, this is $50 to $60, and I think you can find a lot of bargain stuff out on the market right now. So that is something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's go into my likes and my dislikes. We'll do it for likes first, some dislikes, and then some extra commentary. So my likes here. I am vegan. This is a vegan channel, but this is not necessarily a vegan review. Number one and number two as my likes: beans and brown rice. So I don't know if any of you have tried to cook beans before or just cook brown rice. Maybe have made dinner and then forgot to cook the rice and happened to just have brown rice. That is an absolute nightmare because brown rice can take hours to cook. We're talking between 1 to 2 hours, and it still doesn't taste like it's gone anywhere. And then especially for beans, usually you have to soak beans overnight at least 6 hours before you can even, start cooking them. And then that'll take another hour to two, depending on what condition or what state you want it to be in. The electric pressure cooker cooks beans, I'm going to say general beans, because there's chickpeas, there's different kinds of beans, 30 minutes. You don't have to soak it. To me, if you are somebody who really likes to eat brown rice and beans, this guy will pay for itself. No soaking, no nothing. Brown rice, 12 minutes on this guy while it's cooking. So it's a flat out winner, and if those are things that you cook very often, for sure, that's a win. Other things that I really like about this is that it instills flavor really well. So this is very different from like putting tofu in a pot on a stove. You get so much more flavor inside the tofu, and that goes for other things like beans or whatever you choose to cook in here. Everything just has a lot more flavor to them. Really, depending on what your needs are or what you're intending to do, that is something that is really really useful for that as well. This is not so much big for me, but kind of like a set it and forget it type of deal. I know that that's why a lot of people get slow cookers, which I have bought one in the past and I just like used it once. This can completely replace your slow cooker and do it in a quicker time, yet you still have that option of like, okay, I'm just going to, start cooking this, do my other work or do my other cooking, and then come back to this and it will be completely fine and nothing will happen. So I think kind of a peace of mind for those of you who really like that. A cool thing, and I put this under my likes because I didn't really know that it could do that, but you can also saute in a slow cooker. So that is not something I've ever tried with like my rice machine or something before, but you essentially turn on the setting that you want. Like if it was like a rice setting or whatever, you can brown some onions in here before you add in your other ingredients. You can toast up some spices as well. And that was actually very cool for me to know. I mean, for those of you who eat meat and want like a little bit of sear on your chicken, that is something that you can do here before you pour in your rice or your stock or your soup or anything else. So that was really cool. I mean, this other thing, so I'm probably going to do another video on this, but these are, I thought I'd show it to you anyways, but these are pressure cooker inserts and only third parties sell them, but essentially what you can do is cook multiple things at once. So sometimes like a big issue with pressure cooker is like once you have it in there, you can't really do anything else. You can't really open it because then that'll release some of the pressure. But this guy, there's so many things in here. You can, like, let's say that you're cooking rice, right? You can also put in like different vegetables in here. And what is this? There's like a steaming attachment here. And then I don't know what this is. It probably makes, I know that this cooks eggs really well as well. So that is something that I like about it, because for me, initially, I just thought like, oh, it's great to cook one pot things, but what if I wanted to cook multiple things? So just to know that that is an option, and I put that under my like as well. Okay, so let's talk about my dislikes, and they're not big dislikes, but number one is just getting started with the electric pressure cooker and the initial kind of like learnings of what you have to do. So for me, I'm really big on just like, I don't really like to read instructions. I just like to start cooking. For the electric pressure cooker though, when I initially read the instructions, I actually put this guy aside for a couple of weeks, and it's just because I knew that there was a fair amount that I needed to read into before I got started. Now, once I read into it, everything was really quick, and I obviously, once you understand it, you can work on it. But kind of that initial process of even like kind of knowing like the switches and like how to do the times. There was some talk on, just kind of like how to take this apart and how to clean it. And there's the vent valve that you need to, like make sure it's locked. And there's not a lot, but there was enough to kind of initially dissuade me from even starting to use it. So just kind of know that, like once you do get over it though, there's not a ton to learn, but once you do get over that initial hump, everything is not a lot nicer since you know how to work with it. But definitely it was it's a semi complicated machine. Number two, and I've had this guy for a couple of months now, is just cleaning it, right? Again, it's not that the cleaning is really hard, but because there's so many parts to this. So what you have to do is like, this comes off, there's a shield guard, there is this little like plastic ring thing, and this is what kind of keeps that pressure in. It seals everything in. And then you have this valve here for the steam that you have to make sure is, you know, clear all the time, because otherwise the steam can't break through. And again, it's not that hard to take apart, but it's just the fact that I do have to take it apart, the fact that there are so many kind of moving parts, makes this a little bit, it's a little bit annoying to wash. I don't want to say it's overwhelming. I just mean like I don't like a lot of parts. So that's something to keep in mind, like whether you guys want to get this or not. But it is one of those things where like once you've done it like a couple of times, you know how to like quickly disassemble everything, and you know how to quickly reassemble everything. So that's yeah, that's something to kind of keep in mind. And then another thing I think a lot of people will complain about is like this ring itself. So it is made from silicone. It is absolutely necessary to seal everything in, but man, does it pick up smell really well. I've made beans and a couple of rice dishes with it, especially with like savory dishes. This picks up everything. And so what people online have actually recommended is, you know, if you are to be using a pressure cooker regularly, is to just buy like 2 or 3 of these rings and have one be kind of your savory preparation, one be kind of your sweet preparation, just so that the flavors don't mix. Like, I don't think that the flavors mix necessarily when you're cooking it. It's just the smell of the ring. So that can be a little bit off-putting. So just a couple of those will do. This was a big dislike for me, but as time went on, I realized it wasn't such a problem. But it is this idea of prep time and people not really giving you the correct times when it comes to pressure cookers. So yes, a pressure cooker probably cooks things quicker than, you know, anything on a stove, but those cooking times are not the actual cooking times. So for a pressure cooker, you need to wait for it to build up pressure first before it even cooks. I've kind of timed it. It usually takes around 10 minutes to pressurize before it even starts to cook. And then afterwards, you kind of want to wait a little bit for it to depressurize a bit before you turn this nozzle right here to let all of the steam out, right? Because that's how the pressure cookers release pressure. So all in all, you have to add about 15 minutes to this cooking time. So for example, if brown rice takes about 12 minutes, so you have to add around 15 minutes to that. So 27 minutes for brown rice in general to cook. Initially, I thought that like, man, this is the biggest lie ever. Like, oh, this is gonna take so much more time. Like, why would I even use this? But I realized like for a lot of things, even if you're using a rice cooker or if you're waiting for your pasta water to come up to a boil, it's usually a couple of minutes for that. It's not always 10 minutes, but usually you wait for most things to come up to heat. And it's one of those things where like if you're making rice or if you're making beans, chances are you're doing something else on the side anyways. So this coming up to pressure and depressurizing is not really a big issue, but it is something that you should keep in mind. You need to add 15 minutes to any cooking time. And this is like something that I hate, but like people will talk about like, oh, you can like, you know, again, you can do soups, you can do eggs, you can do cakes in here. With this additional kind of a cooking time added on, there are definitely some things that I'd rather just do on a stove because it's just a pot, it's just a lid, it's just so much easier. I don't have to deal with the cleaning, I don't have to like, you know, that kind of a thing. And so like that was something that was really annoying for me, was that people would recommend all of these things. Like you can do so many things on a pressure cooker, and for sure you can, but you know, there are definitely, like, for some things like soups, like easier things, you can definitely do it on a stovetop and it would be, you know, equally as quick. And certainly, you know, for cakes, the time that it took to pressurize and whatever, it's the same thing as an oven. And so I would, you know, just probably use an oven instead. But then it dawned upon me that a lot of people do live in apartments, and certain apartments, like, you might not have a stove or you might not have an oven. And so in that case, an electric, you know, appliance, an electric anything is going to make a lot of sense, because you can, you know, kind of steam and bake cakes in here. You can do things on a stovetop like saute and whatnot that you could do if you had a stove. But if you didn't, obviously, like, this is invaluable. So those are things that I also needed to think about. And kind of like the rule is, like, the more that you have packed in the pressure cooker, I guess the denser it is, the more time it takes to pressurize. So that is, you know, kind of something to keep in mind as well. But also, like, if you're doing soups with like a lot of beans in it, or you're putting in brown rice, obviously it makes sense to use a pressure cooker, because you can't really, that doesn't compete on the stovetop. So, okay, so my final thoughts on the electric pressure cooker, and really, who is it for? Most pressure cookers come in a big size like this. I haven't really seen any ones too small. So who is this for is, are you the type of person that likes these kind of more like one pot type family meals, like these kind of bigger type family meals? Are you somebody like for me, when I bought my slow cooker in the past and I only used it once, it was just because like I didn't really like slow roasted things, like, or like a big hunk of meat that I could eat for days in and days out. Like, that wasn't me. I liked eating in small portions. I liked eating different things every day. And so, you know, that is something to kind of consider. I feel like a pressure cooker, like, for sure, beans and rice, you just have to keep that in mind, is like, if you want to cook those, you should get one of these, like, for sure. But are you kind of into these type of like larger pot meals, like soups and stews and whatnot? Because if you are, then that's, you know, this is a good thing for you. If you're not, then this, you know, this might be something that you might, you know, get and then put away and then not really end up using. And then really, like, the last thing going back to it is price, because I was in the market for a rice cooker and I thought, like, either way I'd be spending, you know, close to $30 to $40. This can cook your rice, this can function as a slow cooker, and again, it's really good for, harp on it again, rice and beans. So, you know, if you can find pressure cookers that are right around like $50 to $60 and they have, you know, good reviews to them, then I think that, you know, that's worth considering. When you go into the $100 price range, that's something where you really have to kind of keep the issues and the considerations that I've put up in mind. So again, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review, and for sure I will be bringing out a couple of recipes using this electric pressure cooker right up for the holidays. So please stay tuned for that, and let me know if you guys have any questions, if you have suggestions on recipes that you want to see me make as well. I know that I put that up on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of you gave some really good suggestions. So definitely let me know in the comments if you're looking to see anything in particular. I know some of you guys also wanted some Asian desserts cooked in this as well. So there's definitely a lot of recipes coming up for you with this. Anyways, I will see you guys all again soon, okay? Bye.